The Gospel Commission tells us, go to all the people of all nations and make them my disciples. Since 1874, when John Nevins Andrews, the first Seventh-day Adventist missionary, boarded that mission boat that took him to Europe, Seventh-day Adventist missionaries have been going to the mission land. Think of it. We have missionaries in more than 207 countries and territories around the world. Hundreds or maybe thousands of people have gone around the world since 1874, following the command of Jesus to go into all the world. And while we continue to go, or wish we could go, to a mission field, we have forgotten another mission field. Of course, we have mission fields here in the North American division, but today I would like to suggest to you an even more important mission field: your family. Ellen White says about the family that as workers for God, our work is to begin with those nearest. It is to begin in our home. There is no more important missionary field than this. You can find that in Child Guidance, page 476, in case you're interested in that quote. But I'll read it again. As workers for God, our work is to begin with those nearest. It is to begin in our home. There is no more important missionary field than this. The family, your family, is the most important missionary field there is. That's not a new concept, by the way. While Jesus said, go, Paul said, but first take care of your family. When he wrote to young pastor Timothy, he said there in 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8, Paul said to Timothy, but if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. We at the North American Division Family Ministries Department have created many resources to help you, pastors and evangelists, as you evangelize and disciple your family. All these resources have been designed around the family life cycle, from birth all the way to death. First, we'll talk about Help, I'm a Parent. It's a small group program for parents with children ages birth to 7, then 8 to 12, and then 13 to 18. Some churches are using these books in conjunction with their Vacation Bible School or with Pathfinders or Adventurers meetings. You see, while the children are in their activities, the parents gather together in the church or in a room or a hall or of sorts, and they study, they learn, and they discuss about how to be better parents. So the children are learning, the parents are learning. One church here in Maryland noticed that few young parents were attending Sabbath school on Sabbath, and so they used these books, Help, I'm a Parent, as a parenting Sabbath school class, and they noticed that they had an increase in participation from these young parents. The parents dropped their children off at their respective classes, and then the parents went to their parenting class to learn more about what it means to be a good, effective, good Christian parent. The next book that a resource that we want to share with you is called Making Jesus My Best Friend. It is a baptismal preparation guide for children ages 8 to 12. Through stories, games, and Bible study, young children can learn about Jesus and make the decision to follow him and become his disciples. And by the way, we designed this book so that parents are the ones to teach and prepare their children for baptism, as it should be. It would be wonderful if you would keep copies of this study guide in your church so that whenever a parent tells you that their child is ready for baptism or has asked for baptism, that you would, instead of telling them to go buy the book online or at the Adventist Book Center, that you immediately hand them the book and explain to them that it is their responsibility to train, to teach their children, to prepare their children for baptism. By the way, some of you might be thinking, ages 8 to 12, isn't that pretty young? In the inside cover of the book, we have a quote from Ellen White where she says that children ages 8 10, and 12 are at the prime age to be approached with the subject of personal religion. And she also says to not tell these children to wait until a more opportune time. That's why we created this resource for young children, because that's the best age for them to make a decision for baptism. We also created 2 books. In fact, we just wrote them last year. One for single moms and one for single dads. They are called Solo Mom and Solo Dad. They are, again, 2 of our newest books written to help single parents not just survive, but thrive. Then we wrote Preparing for Your Marriage and Enriching Your Marriage. They were released by Pacific Press just recently this spring, and they are to be used in conjunction with the Prepare Enrich program that many of you as pastors have been trained to use. The Preparing for Your Marriage is a marriage preparation book, again, for couples preparing for marriage. Enriching Your Marriage is for those couples that are already married. It's not a copy, a duplicate of the Prepare Enrich program. It is to supplement what the Prepare Enrich program has offered for about 40 years or more now. Grandparenting, Showing Your Grandchildren a Grand View of God, was written to help grandparents and older members of our congregations how they can support parents as they disciple their children. Grandparents play a very valuable role in the physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being of their grandchildren. And they serve a very important purpose in connecting the generations with their knowledge, with their experience through their children onto their grandchildren and possibly even great-grandchildren. And then Helping Write the Final Chapter was written to help pastors be more effective ministers to those who are dying of a terminal illness and to those who grieve the loss of a loved one. Drawing from our experience as hospice chaplain, as a pastoral family team, we wrote this resource for pastors so they know how to minister better to those who are dying of a terminal illness, and then again to their loved ones, or to loved ones in general who mourn, who grieve the death of their loved one. Welcome to the Family is a resource that you can use to help new members of the church, particularly following a public evangelistic effort, to adapt to their new faith and the Adventist lifestyle. It's a tested member retention program which has shown to help retain more than 80% of newly baptized church members past the critical first 6 months since becoming church members. So it's a program that you use following an evangelistic meeting for 6 Friday evenings in order to help these new members become Adventists. Yes, they've been baptized and officially they're members of the church, but to really become Adventists from the heart as far as their lifestyle is concerned, and again, to retain them as members of the church for the long run, not just for a few months. A Follower of Jesus is part of the I Follow series that Advent Source has produced through the years, and it's a small discipleship course for new members of the church, which can be used during the Sabbath school period or at a different time as a small group instructional opportunity. In addition to these, you have access to other supportive resources like Family Seasons, which is the companion book of the Adult Sabbath School Study Guide for the second quarter of 2019, which in fact is still being used by many congregations, either on Sabbath afternoon or for prayer meeting. But this book is the companion book to the Sabbath school lesson, and again is being used to continue to enrich families, to continue to strengthen families in the congregation. And you have access to the daily devotional to complement the resources that we have. These daily devotionals are Help, I'm a Parent, and Family Faith. Now, you can use any of these resources on their own, or you can use them directly in your evangelistic program. How? Well, think of evangelism not as an event, but as a process. In that process, you have first the preparation for the event, then you have the actual evangelistic meetings, and then you have to have a follow-up. Without the follow-up, you may lose the interest of those people that you actually just recently baptized. So we suggest that in the preparation part or stage of the process, that you use the parenting resource, because we created them as a small group program, so people can gather their neighbors or their friends in their homes when everything is safe to do so. They can gather them in their homes to talk about parenting, but in the process, they're also developing relationships with them. And then when the evangelistic meetings come, they can invite them, in fact, come with them to the evangelistic series. So not only are they teaching them or are they learning together about parenting, they're developing the relationships that will carry them to the meetings and to membership. You can also use the baptismal preparation guide for young children to prepare them before the meetings begin. As you probably know, the evangelists encourage you to wait or have some baptisms ready for the meeting. So what if the children in the congregation can be ready and can be part of the first baptism, instead of attending the meetings, asking for baptism, only to be told, well, first you have to prepare for the baptism. So help your children prepare for the meetings, for their baptisms before the meetings, so they can then be baptized as the meetings take place and as they come to an end. If you would like to conduct a public evangelistic series, but with a focus on the family, our colleague from the Greater New York Conference, Dr. Alonso Smith, a successful, experienced evangelist for many years, compiled his evangelistic messages in the book, Sermons That Strengthen Families. This is an option. Instead of using archaeology or prophecy or some other concept as a springboard for your public meetings, you can use the family as the springboard, as the main focus of the messages for the evangelistic meetings. And once the public meetings are over, then you go into the third stage of this process of evangelism, and that's the follow-up, by using the book, Welcome to the Family. Again, it's a program that we recommend that you do for 6 Friday nights. The follow-up is crucial if we are to be successful in retaining the newly baptized members of the church. You can also start a new Sabbath school class and use the book, A Follower of Jesus, to ease them into the small study group that will eventually become the Sabbath school class to study the Sabbath School Adult Study Guide. And by the way, you can find all of these resources at adventsource.org. adventsource.org. Pastor and author Jill Briscoe said, "The place between your own 2 feet at any given time, that is your mission field." Right now, while you are at home, think of that special place where you are as your first and most important mission field, and guide the families in your church to think of their own homes the same way. May God bless you as you use whatever of these resources you can to guide your families to be stronger and healthier, and to become good disciple makers of their own children and of those around them.